All right, all right. How's everybody doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Just give a few more minutes to see how.
I like the intro.
Yeah. Look, and I'm already having issues. Look at it. I'm already having issues that Instagram's not going live.
Really?
Yeah. Oh man. See, I knew this was gonna happen. Okay, I'm not tripping. All right. Cool. So, we're gonna actually start off with a. You know what? Give me 1 second, man. Let me see if I can try this one more time. I knew I was gonna have technical difficulties. I know it.
Just having trouble connecting.
Yeah, let me try it one last time. Let me see if I can put the link here. Copy, and then go back here. Let's try it one more time. All right, cool. Let's start here. So we're going to start with a song. So I'm able to add music now. All right, we're going to share here. Excuse me if I go a little slow. Like I said, I'm still learning this. And all right. Cool. That's a nice song. I love that group, I swear.
The audio came through good too.
All right, cool. Hey, Denora, you're on. Good. All right.
Hey, Denora.
So, can you hear us, Denora?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay.
All right, cool. Did you hear the song?
Part of it, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, we finished it right now. All right, so today we are going to be in Mark chapter 14, verses 26 to 31. And remember, we're going to cover a little bit about last week. Remember the Lord's Supper? And this is going to take place right after the Lord's Supper. So, I wanted to actually now play this other video of just to give us a little glimpse of what we're going to see today, what we're going to study today. All right. Let me go ahead and press play. It's only a minute.
Rabbi, I will not fall away. I will lay down my life for you. Will you? I will. Peter, I tell you, before dawn, you will deny me 3 times.
All right, so that is what we're going to be talking about today. All right, so let's get the text on now. Screen, there is the text. All right, so let's actually start back from last week. Remember, we talked about the Lord's Supper. Can someone tell me what the bread represented? What was it symbolic of? Anybody remember what that was?
His body.
Okay. Good. And what about the wine? What did that represent?
His blood.
Blood of the new covenant. So we're actually going to start back from what we read last week, and then we're going to go finish up into the passage. So it said, while they were eating, he took some bread, and after a blessing, he broke it and gave it to them and said, take it. This is my body. And we had taken the cup and given thanks, he gave to them, and they all drank from it. And he said to them, this is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many. Truly I say to you, I will never again drink of it, of the fruit of the wine, until the day I drink of it new in the kingdom of God. Now, all right, and then this is for today's verses. After singing a hymn, They went out to the Mount of Olives, and Jesus said to them, You will all fall away, because it is written, I will strike down the shepherd, and the sheep will be scattered. But after I have been raised, I will go ahead of you to Galilee. But Peter said to him, Even though all may fall away, yet I will not. And Jesus said to him, Truly I say to you, that today, this very night, before the rooster crows twice, you yourself will deny me 3 times. But Peter kept saying instantly, If I have to die with you, I will not deny you. And they all were saying the same thing also. Okay, let's go ahead and kind of break down what's going on. So in verse 26, right, and after the singing of the hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. Verse 26, we see that music followed the Lord's Supper and or fellowship dinners. A background history on this: it was customary to sing psalms, which consisted of the I can't even say Halilel, which were Psalms 113 through 118, so Jewish thing. They celebrated God's past deliverance in anticipation of the future restoration of Jerusalem. Music was a common thing at many ancient banquets also. And even now in the modern church, we when we get together, there's always music. Whether you have a home fellowship or a church building, one of the things we always see is music. So it not surprising that they would sing some songs at that time as well. Then in verse 27, where he says, you will all fall away, because it is written, I will strike down the shepherd, and the sheep shall be scattered. But after I have been raised, I will go ahead of you to Galilee. So what's going on right there? Jesus predicts that they will fall, or actually, a better word is stumble away, meaning they're going to abandon him when we see next week when he gets arrested. We see that Jesus is quoting out of Zechariah 13:7, which says, Awake a sword against my shepherd and against the man, my associate, declares Yahweh of hosts. Strike the shepherd, that my sheep may be scattered, and I will turn my hand against the little ones. Okay, but you know how we do it. We got to go back to the Old Testament, read the whole passage, and see what the context was. So we're going to go to Zechariah 13, verses 1 to 9, and it says, In that day a fountain will be opened for the house of David and for the inhabitants of Jerusalem, for sin and for impurity. And it will be in that day, declares Yahweh of hosts, that I will cut off the names of the idols from the land, and they will no longer be remembered. And I will also cause the prophets and the unclean spirits to pass away from the land. And it will be that if anyone still prophesies, then his father or mother who gave birth to him will say to him, You shall not live, for you have spoken falsely in the name of Yahweh. And his father and mother who gave birth to him will pierce him through when he prophesies. And it will be in that day that the prophets will each be ashamed of his vision when he prophesies, and they will not put on a hairy mantle in order to deceive. But he will say, I am not a prophet, I am a cultivator of the ground, for a man sold me a slave in my youth. And one will say to him, What are these wounds struck here between your arms? Then he will, those with which I was struck in the house of my friends. And then here comes the passage that Jesus quotes. Awake, O sword, against my shepherd and against the man, my associate, declares Yahweh of hosts. Strike the shepherd, that the sheep may be scattered, and I will turn my hand against the little ones. And it will be in the land, declares Yahweh, that 2 parts it will be cut off, and breath and breathe their last, and 1/3 will be left in it. And I will bring the 3rd part through the fire, and refine them as silver is refined, and test them as gold is tested. They will call on my name, and I will answer them, and I will say, they are my people, and they will say, Yahweh is my God. So in context, we see it's talking about a time will come when there's going to be cleansing of sins and impurity that will come to Jerusalem, a time when idolatry is going to be removed. This fountain that they're speaking of, we know that in the New Testament, it's going to be Christ. Christ is the one who cleans everything, who cleans of impurity. And then it's talking about false prophets are going to be ashamed of their false works and receive wounds for their false prophecies and works. Idolatry, false prophecy, impurity have no place in God's kingdom, and hence no place in the church. And then we see verse 7, Jesus quotes that in speaking to him and his situation that he's about to endure, which we're going to read about next week, where it says, "Awake, O sword, against my shepherd, and against the man, my associate, declares Yahweh of hosts. Strike the shepherd, and the sheep may scatter, and I will turn my hand against the little one." So that's what's going on that part. So let's go back to the text. It's going to be Mark 14, 28. Okay. So let's go back to verse 28. It says, "But after I have been raised, I will go ahead of you into Galilee." So what is it that's going on right there? Verse 28. We're going to quote, let me put it up the text here. Okay, here Jesus is speaking or prophesying that after his resurrection, he is going to meet up with his disciples. He's going to go ahead of them and meet up with them in Galilee. So we're going to actually read that account in Matthew 28, 5-16, which says, "And the angel answered and said to the woman, 'Do not be afraid, for I know that you are looking for Jesus who has been crucified. He is not here, for he has risen, just as he said. Come, see the place where he is lying, and go quickly and tell his disciples that he has risen from the dead. And behold, he is going ahead of you into Galilee. There you will see him. Behold, I have told you.' And they left the tomb quickly with fear and great joy, and ran to report to his disciples. And behold, Jesus met them and said, 'Greetings.' And they came up and took hold of his feet and worshipped him. Then Jesus said to them," these are the women, "'Do not be afraid. Go and report to my brothers to leave for Galilee.'" So this is the fulfillment of this part. "And they will see me. Now, while they were on their way, behold, some of the guards came into the city and reported to the chief priest all that had happened. And when they had assembled with the elders and took counsel together, they gave a large sum of money to the soldiers and said, 'You are to say, his disciples came by at night and stole him away while we were sleeping. And if this is heard before the governor, we will win him over and keep you out of trouble.' And they took the money and did as they had been instructed. And this story was widely spread among the Jews and is to this day. But the 11 disciples proceeded to Galilee, to the mountain he had designated." So a little background here. Jewish people in this period were not expecting a resurrection of a given person distinct from the resurrection of the whole nation. Remember, we talked about this in previous studies of Mark. The Jews and even the disciples had this trouble their expectation of the Messiah was not what Jesus looked like. Remember, they were expecting a warrior, a powerful conqueror, and all this stuff, not a lonely servant. So they viewed their view of the Messiah was not right, which is one of the reasons they rejected Christ. And the same thing when it came to resurrection, they didn't know anything about somebody being resurrected and all that other stuff. So their view was wrong. As the scattering of Zechariah 13 talks about, it precedes God's gathering a purified remnant. So Jesus which is Zechariah's shepherd, would be resurrected, going ahead of his little ones to Galilee. Galilee is where it all began, where he first called the disciples. There he will meet them again. There he will return, reclaim, and recommission them to the work of taking the gospel to the nations. And that's actually when in Galilee is where he gives them the Great Commission. And then verse 29, but Peter said to him, even though all may fall away, yet I will not. In making this bold announcement, Peter once again puts his foot in his mouth, and in essence, is calling Jesus a liar. He won't accept what he's saying. This is not the first time he does this. And Peter responds, no, that's not going to happen. No, I won't turn on you. But Jesus responds in a prophesying what was going to happen. And more than likely, he was probably rebuking Peter once again. So remember in Mark chapter 8, verses 31 to 33, right? We see this is the first time we see that Peter puts his foot in the mouth. And I'm sure once I read it, you guys will remember this. Mark 8, 31 to 33. And he began to teach that the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders and the chief priests and the scribes and be killed. And after 3 days rise again. And he was stating the matter openly. And here comes Peter. He took the Lord to the side and he had the audacity to try to rebuke Jesus. But turning around and seeing his disciples, the Lord rebuked Peter. And what does he say? Get behind me, Satan, for you are not setting your mind on God's interest, but on man. And once again, we see Peter doing something similar again. Jesus is telling them, you guys are going to fall away. He quotes an Old Testament passage, and here comes Peter like, no, it's not going to happen. I'll die for you and all this stuff. And we'll find out next week what Peter really ends up doing. Verse 30, and Jesus said to him, truly I say to you that today, this very night, before a rooster crows twice, you yourself will deny me 3 times. Jesus prophesying Peter will deny him 3 times. Verse 31, but here comes Peter again. He kept saying insistently, if I have to die with you, I will not deny you. And guess what? Now the disciples are jumping in there. And they were all saying the same thing. So, final thoughts. Jesus is the righteous king who endured betrayal and shame for the sake of sinners. I know it is easy for us to want to quickly criticize the mistake that Peter and some of the disciples have made even throughout the book of Mark. But we got to show them a little grace, a little mercy, and not saying that they weren't sincere, they weren't real believers, but this brought something up to my mind where I'm sure all of us can agree that many people talk the talk. Many people claim to be Christians and they love God and woo, 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 but few of them actually walk the walk. Anybody can call themselves a Christian. Anybody can say all the Christianese words, but the fruit of their life at times will show something different. We can never truly put ourselves in other people's shoes and say what we would have or would have not done. I mean, it's easy for us to judge Peter, and I was like, why is he talking like that? He was a coward, and I mean, I've done that before. I'm not gonna lie, but unless it was us in that situation, we don't know how we would have reacted to that. Oftentimes during trials and tribulations, we think we know how we would act, but when you're in the midst of it, sometimes, you're going to panic, be afraid, and do something, dumb like Peter did. So let's try to show them a little grace. But at the same time, I think it's important that we learn and not to put our foot in our own mouths like Peter did, because that's not cool. Okay. Any question, comments? We'll move on to the questions.
No, I'm good.
You good? Denora, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, cool. Question number 1 says, do you regularly ponder and meditate on Jesus and what he has done for you? What thoughts have produced the most serious meditation? What thoughts have led to the most joyous praise? I can go first if you guys want to. So I just basically think back my whole testimony from the beginning to the end. It was, like I mentioned before, it was a 3-year depression. I hurt, lost people. But looking back now and being able to see God's hand the whole time, he never left me. He walked with me through the darkness, through that fire. He was there with me. And I just look back to how I was to where I'm at now. I can't just, all I can do is just say, thank you, God, that you never gave up on me. Thank you that you walked with me. There were times where I felt alone. I felt abandoned. I felt unworthy. I felt like trash. That individual that hurt me made me feel like I was a worthless piece of trash. But through all the things that God allowed me to go through, this is why I do what I do now. Why where I'm at is because God's mercy and grace and love always having my back. And so I just think about everything that I've been through all these years, even with dealing with the loss and death of my brother and just all these other things. I just see God's hand, his faithfulness, even when I wasn't very faithful in the beginning, and I still felt him now. He's still there. So those are the things that make me, knowing what Christ has done. It's like, how can you not live for him now? How could I put anything or anyone ahead of him after what I've been through? And all the stuff that I did in the past, where he had every right to just drop me dead right then and there, he never gave up on me. Even when I was so deep in my sin, I just felt God pulling on me. It's like, nope, you're going to come home someday. Nope, don't do that. You know you're wrong. And then, finally, because I'm a hard-headed person, he had to, like I said before, bring out the rod and really break me. But he used that to build me back up. And I'm very thankful, because I wouldn't be where I'm at now if it wasn't for what God has done. So what about you guys? Like, what is it? What kind of things do you guys think about in your lives that makes you appreciate what God has done for you?
I've been walking with Christ since 2018, and there's been many serious life events, from losing my mother, losing my twin sister, my cat getting sick at the same time. Right after being in a 15-year relationship with a narcissistic person, that's when God, I finally gave up, and God, he led me to him. And then there was also my marriage that failed. So, I mean, there's just major life events that I've gone through since 2018, and also with my health. But when you look back, you see how he was there.
Right.
And like you said, sometimes you could feel like you're alone and you're crying out like, God, why are you letting this happen to me? Where are you? And you just feel like there's silence. But there's something to learn from it. And he wants us to rely on him. And so, yeah, I'm thankful for not just the good things, but the bad things too, because I've learned from it.
Right. Okay, Denora, anything you wanna share?
I think that video, just watching that video, just
Which one? The one in the beginning?
no, the not the song, but where Peter's.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's the one I meant. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, because it's easier when to visualize, right? It's easier to, but just watching that right now and just thinking about how Christ, he's been through everything that we've been through. He felt that pain, that betrayal.
Right.
Like he felt that. And so, a lot of times we feel, alone or like no one understands, but I mean, that's amazing. Like he's felt every single thing that we have felt.
Right.
He went through that. And so, we're not alone.
Right.
We're not alone. And to be able to reach out to him, like at any moment in the middle of the night, whenever, I'm so grateful for that, because he hears us, he sees us, he sees our pain. Like even when words can't describe it, when words don't come out, right?
Yeah.
What is it, like wordless groans, or I don't remember where it says that. There's a verse that said, when the Spirit prays, right?
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
In that way, when we don't even know what to say. And I'm grateful for that. Yeah, because for me, I mean, there were many times, with that. But I would say, yeah, with my first divorce, that was that was a wake-up call. That's like, I would say that's when like my relationship with him actually started, my walk with him, because
Oh, she logged up.
We lost her.
Denora? Oh, I think we lost her. Oh, let me add it back. Are you back?
yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, you cut off there. Yeah, you're talking about your marriage. That's what your
Yeah, but I was
divorce.
just
That's
saying,
when,
like in that season is when I came back to him, and when I really started to walk with him, because I had no one else to turn to, and that's what I knew. That was the source, my reliable source, right? Is
right.
him. So, and then turning your back, that's not a good thing either. That's what happened there for a while, and that, and now returning back to him, right? That's just like, why did I ever turn my back on him?
Right.
So
All right, cool. Question number 2. In what areas of temptation might you be susceptible to pride and be like Peter and say, no, I would never do that? Is there certain areas in your life where you might be tempted to be prideful and just make the same mistake that Peter made?
Yeah, I would say when I ended that 15-year relationship, and then, I was serious with God. Before I got married, I thought, hey, I'm not going to make that same mistake. I'm not going to let this relationship, get the best of me and God second. And well, I failed at that. I failed miserably. And God reminded me, like, hey, obviously he did some bad things, but you were responsible too. Like, I can't put all the blame on my ex-husband. So
Okay.
I was definitely chastised.
Laura, anything you want to share on that part?
what Nikki said, but put into other words also, like thinking that you can live a life with him sometimes and without him, one foot in, one foot out, thinking
Yeah.
that,
Mhm.
that was
Yep.
possible. Like, no, it
Yeah.
doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't
We're
play,
proven wrong every time.
yeah,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can't play both sides of the fence. You got to be on one side, either
Yeah.
100% committed or you're going to be out in the world. You can't, no.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's the problem with most people nowadays is they want to be that super Christian for Sunday or whatever. Then the rest of the week, it's just like, okay, well, I don't have time for God. I don't have time for Bible study. I don't have time for prayer. I don't have time for this. I want to do my own things. But here comes Sunday, and you become the super Christian, and so we can't do that. We have to be on Team Jesus 100% and forget about everything else. So I think for me, it's just thinking that I know more than God sometimes, thinking that I can handle it, or not going to Him on certain things sometimes. Or no, it's gonna be all right. I can handle this, and yeah, it always goes back. Always goes back. Thinking that you have the capacity to do something without God's help or blessing or whatever, so it goes down the toilet. So I've learned not to do that anymore. But okay, cool. Let's have this question. We got two more questions. The next one. In what circumstances are you most tempted to fall away or stumble? How can you best prepare to stay true to God? Now, let me answer this one. There's two ways for me. Um, when there's a small handful of people in my life that can trigger me like this. So when they activate that rage inside me, I'm tempted to just go off on them. But I'm thankful that God has helped me mature a little bit. That before that happens, I go to God first. But I don't remember. You guys remember a couple weeks back where I texted you guys that I needed prayer. That week was terrible for me. I just could not let it go. And then the next week, like I mentioned to Nikki, when I saw that individual, I felt nothing but sorrow and sadness and compassion for the individual because looking at them and how much they're struggling in their life, how much they really need Jesus, and I'm over here getting mad over maybe I might have had a reason to, but God has blessed me, and that individual is just struggling. So it's that, and then when it comes like to dating, I'm not gonna share what happened today. I could do that privately, but in the beginning, it was because I didn't want to be alone. That maybe my standards were a little bit lower, but now it's like you know what? I just rather be alone than to lower my standards. And even if sometimes I struggle with that, and I ask God, man, are you ever gonna send me someone? I know you don't owe me a wife, not promised a wife, but I always tell them I don't want to. Once my kids grow up and family members start to pass away, like I don't want to die alone. I don't want to be alone. I want to have that partner. I want a second chance to be a husband again. And when I start to feel lonely, or I go on all these bad dates and just get discouraged, I sometimes get a little upset at God and like, man, really, really, we're doing this again when I should be thanking Him that He's not allowing me to get involved with people that are going to hinder me. And God saved me today. All I'm going to say is I had a date lined up for today, and I am very thankful that I asked a certain question that I should have asked, and I prevented myself from going to waste my time and possibly stumble. So very thankful for that. So yeah, those are for me. What about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, the same thing. What was the question again? In what circumstances are you most tempted to
Most
fall?
tempted to fall away or stumble, and how can you best prepare to stay true to God?
Yeah, like loneliness. You know that
Yeah,
that's
ooh, that's the tough part for me too. Loneliness.
that's a season that I'm going through. But yeah, it's all about perspective too. You can look at it that way. God saved me from uh, a potential another failure, or somebody that would take up my time with Him.
Right.
So looking at it that way, if you put it into that perspective, it turns into instead of a complaint or something negative, it turns into something good, something to be thankful for.
Yeah.
Not to say, that I wouldn't want that right in the future, but
Right.
right now it's nice to, like, I'm alone and I have joy, and that only comes from Him.
Right.
For that,
Exactly.
I'm thankful. So that's one of the ways that I could stumble, just hanging out with wrong people, with the wrong, that's like one of my major struggles. The other thing is like injustice. I get, like you were talking about, getting angry. Yeah, when something is done that's not right, I I react sometimes, and I say the wrong things, and yeah, I do that. And so just learning to not do that. think before you speak,
Yeah.
because you don't know what that person, maybe they had a bad day, or you really don't know. It could be at the grocery store. It could be, like last week I had an incident like that I took my mom's dog to get groomed for the first time, and the haircut was not the right one, and they cut her tongue when they were trimming around her mouth.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't anything major, but I was with my daughter at the vet till like 10 o'clock at night. And so instead of getting angry at that moment, because they were freaking out at the store, right? They thought I was going to like blow up. So I was just like, okay, well, I'm just glad that it wasn't major. She wasn't bleeding. It's fine. It's okay. But it didn't hit me until the next day. I did get angry. But, my daughter was like, Mom, it's okay. Like, maybe it's that girl's first job, because she looked really young. And so
Yeah.
when she said that, I thought, well, what if that was my daughter? Like, what if that was her first job? What if, so yeah, not reacting, I guess.
Okay. Nikki?
For me, it would probably be relationships. But even when I got with my ex-husband, when I first got with him, I was looking for a godly man and all that. And that's what I thought I got until, I realized who he really was. So I probably rushed into that. But also, I struggle with patience and negative thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And that could cause me to stumble, because then it's so easy to be negative. It's a lot harder to be more positive minded and think positive of others. Your mind just wants to go straight to negativity.
Right.
And then you start ruminating in your head. And I'm just like, Nikki, shut up. Like I talk to myself. I'm just like, stop it.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? You just find yourself going back to the same old thinking patterns. And then I have to stop myself. I have to cast those thoughts down in the middle of them. And it seems relentless at sometimes. And I'm like, why do I keep doing this? I get angry with myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are some things that I struggle with. But, the more that you keep casting those thoughts down and correcting yourself, it gets a little bit easier. And just have to remind myself to not be so harsh on myself. Like, yeah, correct myself, but don't beat myself up over it. I'm human. I'm going to make mistakes. I have to have patience and knowing that it's going to take time to change the way I think. And, also a lot of prayer. Like when I pray to Jesus, I'm like, please give me a mind like you, God,
Yeah.
soften my heart, that kind of stuff.
Okay. Cool. All right. So next week we're gonna be where Jesus is praying in the Garden of Gethsemane. Got a cool video for that one as well. So I'm gonna try to as you can see, there's a lot of visual stuff going on here. That's why I'm kind of playing with it. So I'm gonna try to add some videos to get more visual, and because I'm more of a visual person. And then all these features, I'm going to try to, like I said, just try to make these a little bit better. And I don't know about you guys, but I actually enjoyed watching the little clip right before the study. So if anytime we're studying whatever book, if there's like a little video about what we're going to be studying, I'll definitely try to play it. And it is right now as we're getting towards where Jesus is getting arrested, when he's going to be beaten and crucified. Just be prepared for those videos are going to be, it's going to be crazy. So,
Okay.
all right.
I definitely like this format.
Yeah?
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I think it's good. It's good.
Yeah. So next week, I'm getting the new camera, a microphone, headset. I mean, it's just, and then the more I practice with this software, it's going to get better. But so next week, you're going to see me with a mic here and headsets and all kinds of cool stuff. So, I think the Nora said she wanted to pray us out, right?
What? Oh,
Go ahead and pray us out, Nora.
is that because I was late? I didn't
Yeah,
pray us
you
in.
were late.
All right. Jesus, thank you for Edgar, Lord, for using him for this service, because everything worked out great, and may it be a blessing to all of us. Give us ears to hear your word, Lord, a heart like yours, Lord, to take it all in and we're worried, when we're anxious, Lord, remind us that to just be able to cast our fears, our anxious thoughts, our ways of thinking to you, Lord. You're there to help us, Lord. Give us rest tonight and peace. And for those that couldn't join, take care of them also and be with them. And thank you, Lord, for tonight. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
All
Amen.
right. Thank you guys. Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.